ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of the Drafted Pages podcast with your host, Nick Krasinski. As you could tell by the title today, we're going to be talking about some MLMs, specifically Amway. As some of you know, I have been in Amway for a little bit over a year now, and this is a kind of a controversial topic, I feel like, with most people when you bring up Amway or MLMs, and I just kind of wanted to share my experience with it. I think what you read on the internet can be confined one way or another, usually in the negative light. And to be honest, most of this podcast is going to be painting it in a positive way because I got a lot out of it and actually enjoyed my time doing it and in the process. So I wanted to share that experience with you guys and with anybody who's ever been approached by an MLM company or wanting to partake in it, wondering what it's like. I'm going to go into all the details here today. So just sit back, take some notes if you're wondering, and if not, this is a little lesson for you about Amway. So I think Amway gets put in a box. Let's just address the elephant in the room, right? People think it's a pyramid scheme, and I was skeptical at first too when I was approached and went through the process and got started and everything. And MLMs can come across as pyramid schemes. And for those of you who don't know what an MLM is, a multi-level marketing company. Basically, that works a similar way to pyramid schemes where you sell products and then there's like people above you and they sell products and things like that. And just like it is a recruitment-based way, but the premise is different, right? And it can work outside the confines of like a pyramid scheme, right, in different ways, and I'll go into that later. But let me just define truly what like a pyramid scheme really is, and how Amway is different from that. So in short, right, it's a business model based on recruitment. That's what a pyramid scheme is. You have the people down at the bottom who are brand new, right? And they got recruited from people above them and so on and so forth. And eventually you're building a pyramid till you get to the top where there's, select people who are making a ton of money, right? And that's basically how pyramid schemes work. If you recruit X amount of people or like you're required to recruit a certain amount of people, then you get money. It's only like through recruitment. It's through like nothing else, or like you have to achieve these certain goals first before you can actually make a profit or have success. And that's kind of how pyramid schemes operate for the most part. People at the top get paid throughout the process, whether you're successful or not. And yeah, that's just kind of like the big thing. And that's why people think Amway works the same way, right? Because it's a lot based on recruitment and multi-level marketing. A lot of people have bad taste in their mouth. Maybe they had a bad experience. Maybe it's all justified, right? But my experience with Amway, the people I worked with, was amazing, honestly. And what kind of makes Amway different from a traditional like pyramid scheme? Well, first thing is they sell products, right? You don't have to recruit a single person to actually make money in Amway. I'll go into this later, but basically you get your own website through Amway, you get access to all those products and everything. And then you just kind of have your unique website code. It's kind of like your business, what they call it, your website. And if you're good at sales, you can make a killing at it because that's what it is. It's selling products. There's tons of them. It started out with just soap, which is an everyday item that people need. And it's grown into hundreds of different products. And some of them are really good. Some of them are a little bit overpriced, in my opinion, for what you could get on the market for a similar quality. But for by and large, I think they're pretty good products, which was shocking to me. When I started, I thought they were kind of going to be cheap garbage. It's going to be hard to sell. In fact, it's actually like pretty good stuff for the most part, especially the cleaning stuff. I mean, that's their name brand. That's how they started, like I said, with soap. So you expect the cleaning stuff to still be really good. But yeah, you don't have to recruit anybody to make money. You just sell products. So that's kind of there's one way Amway's different. The second way is that you can actually earn more than the person above you. I will say it's rare, but it does happen. In fact, it happened with me, with one of my friends who I helped recruit, right? Helped get started. And in his first month, he made a killing. He like sold over $1,000 worth of products, made way more money than me, even though I'm technically above him, right? That doesn't work in a traditional pyramid scheme. The people above you are always going to make more money than you. And Amway doesn't work like that. The bigger you are, the bigger you grow, the harder it is to technically out earn someone above you. And I can go into that later with how the money actually works. But it is possible, right? So that's another distinguishing factor, something that people don't know when they look into Amway. The third way is that people above you, just because they're above you, doesn't really mean anything. In fact, the way our organization ran, the people above me were like responsible in helping me be successful. They weren't just like signing me up and letting me go do my thing. Even though it's kind of how I treated it sometimes. And if they're listening, they might laugh at that because I was kind of arrogant at certain times in the beginning. I thought I knew how to do this thing. And it wasn't until I got coaching that I actually got successful at it. Was able to make like a good amount of money through this. So, but yeah, the people above you don't take from your earnings. In fact, the way it's structured is that there's bonus payments in Amway. You sell X amount of products, you qualify for a certain bonus bracket. Let's say it's like 3% on all the products you sold. So let's say you sold $1,000, you get you sold $1,000 worth of products, you would get 3% on that, right? $300, or excuse me, $30 on that, and yeah, and so on and so forth, right? So that's kind of how it works from the bonus perspective. The people above you, they're like your revenue ties into them. I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but right, let's say you sold 1,000, the person above you sold 500, right? Their total revenue then would be 1,500, so they would qualify for like a higher bonus, and then it's the difference between their bonus and your bonus. So you sold 1,000, you're in the 3%. They sold 15. They sold a 500, but your 1,000 gets included in that, so they're technically at the 1,500. Let's say they're at 6% because of that. It would be 6% minus the 3%. So they're also making 3%, but they're making 3% on the 1,500, right? So that's why people like, they're making more money, because of me or whatever. I mean, yeah, but like that's, a credit to them. You wouldn't be in that position to get started anyways. Where aren't you happy you're making money to begin with? That you're getting those bonus payments, and they're going to help teach you to help you build a team so you can be in that same position. It's kind of like any other corporate job. You start at a certain rung, the manager is going to have a higher salary, or so on and so forth, for helping teach you and guiding you and getting you on projects and things like that. So, people are going to have their own opinion on that, but that's another conversation. But yeah, essentially that's how it works. And then the bonus payments, they all come from Amway. They don't come anything out of your check, out of your pocket. And again, I'm kind of skipping ahead here, but yeah, that's how it works. So the people above you don't ever take from your earnings, which huge distinguisher between a pyramid scheme and an MLM or like Amway. So yeah, and I just have a side note here. Majority of businesses, if you think about them, are a pyramid, right? Not necessarily a pyramid scheme, but like people have such a negative connotation with that. You think about traditional business, right? You have your CEO, then your C-suite, then the rest of the directors, then the managers, then the grunt workers. It all feeds up into a pyramid. So pyramid schemes get such a bad light, and they should, right? I mean, they're scamming people, but there's businesses that operate, kind of similarly, but like they're not scamming you, right? They're just like there is a system to help you make more money, right, through it. And that's why I think Amway gets put in that bad light, and maybe people had bad experiences, like I said. Totally justified for you thinking the way you do. So how does Amway work? How does it start? You're thinking about joining. You've been approached before, you read some bad things on the internet, maybe you heard one negative thing, and right, you're like, nah, I'm out. How does it actually work? Well, a couple things I should note. It's a global company, operates all across the globe. There's all different types of business networks, I guess you could say. Ours was called LTD, stands for Leadership Team Development. It's got probably thousands of people in it. I don't even know the exact number, but there's tons of people in it all across the globe still, and it's kind of just like, people started in it, then they recruited people. There's families that have done this for multiple generations too. So it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty incredible when you think about it and how successful it's been. But the way it worked for my group and my organization that I was a part of there, someone would approach you, see if you're looking for opportunities, right? It's usually just friendly conversation. You just kind of float that question out there. You're looking for other opportunities. Maybe they work in a field, right, that you might think that would present other opportunities. Maybe they've said that too. Maybe they're saying like, man, I wish I had a couple extra $100 a month, something like that. Well, this is a good gig for that. So then you go through a vetting process, and usually it's quick phone call. You ask that question, good, like let me exchange numbers. If it's a stranger, maybe it's someone you don't really have to do the phone call part, but call them up, ask them a few questions, just like, what's your background in, like, what do you like to do, what are you looking for out of this, what are you looking for when you think of an opportunity, just kind of see if it makes sense, right? If they're actually looking for something that would align with what Amway provides, because you don't want to waste your time through this. And that's a big theme I'll come back to, is the fact that time invested in Amway or an MLM or just anything you want to be successful at is super critical. And that's a huge investment in Amway. So I'll get more into that later. But after the phone call, then it's like a 20-minute quick presentation on just kind of like the basics of things. You don't even know it's Amway at this point. You just kind of get told, you sell some products. This is how we do it. It's e-commerce. It's pretty easy. You don't need anything other than like your phone. You can make like up to $500 a month, $2,000 a month, something like that, $2,000 a year. Does that help with things? And so on and so forth. All sounds great. Then you go in for an hour-long, like full plan presentation. It's usually you can do it over Zoom or the first one. Kind of have somebody walk you through a lot more of the details. You find out it's Amway in this. You get to learn more about the products, a lot more details about like the payout structure and how it all works. And to be honest, it all sounded like pretty intriguing. Now, I heard Amway, did some research, heard some bad things on the internet and all that, but I was interested in other opportunities, so I was just gonna see it through and see what happened, right? So the next meeting, you go with a one-on-one with the person that like introduced you or like talked to you about the opportunity to begin with. You walk through some numbers on an Excel sheet, basically just kind of like what income looks like from day one to month one to like 2 years down the line, what it could potentially look like and what they're going to be working towards in that regard. And then you see the plan for the second time. And the reason they do it the second time is, one, to make sure you're really interested, make sure this is really something you want to do. And two, it's a lot of information the first time. So you want to make sure that you have a better grasp of things, can ask all the right questions, because you as like the recruiter, as the business owner, you don't want to spend your time helping this person get started, be successful, make sales, do all this stuff if they're not going to be devoted and if it's not a good fit for them. I think that's one of the biggest things that my coaches like stressed to me throughout this time. And once I became empowered and kind of knew what to do with this, it's like you need to find the people who are going to be worth investing time into. And I think that's critical for any job, any business leader. You want to hire people who are going to be worth that investment in both time and financially. I think there's statistics out there that say like hiring the wrong person can cost like, I don't know, I think it was like 400 times the amount than hiring the right person, or like the cost that it takes to hire the right person. Because, it's time intensive, you're paying salaries and all that stuff. So it is in the real world with Amway. It's a lot smaller stakes. So that's kind of how it works. Again, I kind of put a note here. It's similar to a normal job interview, right? Like you're going to go through, you're going to learn about it. You're going to have time to ask questions. They're going to ask you questions. And you really just want to see if it's a good fit on both ends. If it was, there wasn't a person we said no to. There were people that I said no to that I just knew it wasn't going to be a good fit for what they're looking for. They were either looking for like a full-time job, like a job transition for what they needed, or they were looking for something that they could just sit and just like automate, right? Something that didn't require much work. And this requires work to be successful and, to actually like make a profit from. So yeah, it's kind of like a normal vetting process through that. So the next step, once you go through all that, let's say you meet all the criteria for what everybody's looking for what we looked for in somebody, you get registered, you go through all this registration process. Basically, like I said, you get your own websites, your own business, and then you either go one of two ways or both at the same time, right? One is sales. Like I said, Amway is primarily a selling business, right? If you aren't comfortable at making sales, you can get comfortable through this. You can get outside your comfort zone. Like myself, I used to think like I was good at sales. I did a little minor sales thing in college, and used to think that sales is easy for me because I'm a baseball guy. You fail so much in sales and you fail a lot in baseball, so it would be the same way. Learned that I'm really not that good at sales. I'm probably a lot better now than I was when I started, but it was a lot more of a challenge in the beginning. So than I originally anticipated. But yeah, that's the thing. Like you have to sell products to make money in this, and if you don't sell products, um, you can't make money basically. You don't have to sell a ton, which is the cool thing. You really only need, what we used to say, like 6 to 10 people buying from you monthly would put you in a really good spot. Most of the products you can have people buy monthly. I found that most people bought maybe every other month, maybe every 3 months, something like that. So, you kind of have to maybe have a bigger customer base. If you're having 6 to 10 people buy from you every month, you might need like 30 people overall. But yeah, the name of the game is sales. And then the second part is the recruitment process, right? Kind of how I talked about. Basically, you would have people go through that whole process. Once they're like under you, right? Once they're part of like your business pyramid, right? Whatever you want to call it. You basically teach them the same process that you've been taught, right? And that's the responsibility of the people, the person who recruited you, their upline, what they call it, the person that recruited them, right? Everybody kind of helps each other along the chain, or at least they should. And that's what they did on my team, which I loved. People are great. If they're listening to this, you guys are awesome. I still have a lot of respect for all of you people. Would love just hanging out with those people in general outside of this. They were just great Christian people, and I think I'll come back to this at the end, but I think there's a great reason why I stayed for as long as I did. So yeah, you basically teach them the same skill set. Like you go through this for a couple months, you shadow, they help recruit people for you, help walk them through the process, help them make sales while you're still learning, because there's a lot to learn at the beginning. Like I said, I was arrogant. I thought I knew how to do this at the beginning, very up and down. And then finally I went to my coaches for help, was like, hey, like, can you guys help me a little bit with this? And they definitely did, and I had a lot more success. So credit to them and for being patient with me throughout that process. But that's basically it. Make sales and you help other people make sales. That's really what it comes down to with Amway, and what you have to do to be successful. Now, a couple other things with it. There's like a training once a week that comes with that plan that I talked about. Like it's an hour long. Afterwards, if you're already in business, or you're like getting registered, like right around that time, you stick around. It's usually about like another hour and a half. You recognize all the people that are doing work in their business. So there's 3 steps to it, right? There's the sales process. There's the talking to people about that like 20-minute presentation. There was those, and then there was like people coming to see the full plan. We would recognize people who were doing those, right? And small or a ton, right? It didn't matter. We would recognize those people putting in the work to their business, because as we said at every meeting, corporate America, you don't get recognized for doing your job every day, right? You're not getting a round of applause for clocking in, clocking out, doing your data analysis, doing your presentations, yada, yada. It's just expected. You don't get recognized every week for doing that. So I did like that. I thought that was cool, and another differentiator between the team I was a part of at Amway and a lot of traditional business, corporate America, in this day and age. So there was those. We get recognized, usually learn about a product. Someone spotlights something because there's hundreds of them, so it's hard to know every detail. So it's good to have that, especially if you're doing sales. You need to know what you're selling. And then usually one of the leaders would talk through a fundamental part of the business for about 20 to 30 minutes. and just give some coaching, maybe even some life advice in there. It was really cool. I think I got the most out of those sessions from those people, just like, great personal skills and things like that. And then there's occasional what they call a night owl. Basically, it's like non-business talks. It's not like, I think like those programs are all like monitored by like Amway or LTD, the organization we were a part of. And so they can only say certain things like with like income and stuff like that. So they don't want to like get sued or flagged for like misleading people. I think that's how it went, but the night owls basically say whatever you want. Usually they weren't even about Amway. My coaches, or like my highest like coaches, I guess you could say, were very strong believers. So they would use that opportunity as a chance to speak to other people about God, whether you're a believer or not. One of the biggest things, again, that I loved about, I'll just touch on it now, that I loved about the team that I worked with, and I stayed as long as I did, kept me from not quitting within the first 2 months, was that we all went to the same church. I could see the Christian aspect that's a part of their lives. My one coaches, they're a couple. Their goal was to help 100 families be financially free. That's still their goal. I think that's amazing. They have such a servitude heart. And then their coaches who would usually give these talks, they are just like impact on so many other people, and the way they can use this business as a platform to talk about God. That's what I bought into, and that's what I tried to echo through mine. All right, it wasn't about the money. Well, take that back. First, it was about the money because I was interested in other opportunities to try and make more money. I was living by myself. Rent's expensive. Everything's expensive. I'm like, I need to find a side hustle, explore some opportunities. I have this free time. Let me do this. Let me try something, right? And that's when Amway popped up. And so, yeah, it was originally about the money. And then once I got into it and, started to have some success, some failures, things like that, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like do everything I can to help other people. And then, the money will take care of itself. Like, let's follow my coach's footsteps and be a leader in this. Let God speak through me. Hopefully I can bring others to Christ through this business opportunity. And hopefully I did that. I don't know how many people I touched in that way, but maybe, just a little bit is good enough, right? So a couple other things here with Amway that I just wrote down. There's 4 conferences a year that you go to, basically hear from the top of the LTD team, just talk about business fundamental things, people skills, stuff like that. They were pretty cool. They were long. I will say that we didn't get a lot of sleep just because, you're always around the team. Everybody's talking. Everyone's finding a way to advance their business, which is great. You get a ton of energy out of it. I think someone said at the last one I was at that, there's a reason why they're once every quarter, and it's to like re-energize you, give you like a refresher on skill sets, give you, if you need motivation, you'll get the motivation there. If you need a refresher on skills, you'll get it there. I think that's really cool and something to apply to traditional businesses. It's like once a quarter, have something like that, because people start to like die down or lose focus or whatever it is. Once a quarter, you go to something like this, it picks everything back up. And you can see tremendous growth. People would have their best months coming out of this. I've had some of my best months coming out of conferences, just because you're more motivated, you're fresh with skill sets, all this stuff. And you can see your dreams in reality, right? Of financially free, of going on all these vacations and things like that. And then the last part I have here, there's like a training thing that was marketed as $35 a month. We'll get into that a little bit later, but basically it's audios and a reading list, books to get you better with people skills, business skills. I've read some of them. They were fantastic. I still have some of the best books I've ever read. Really happy about that. And then some of the audios, they're just trainings on the business fundamentals or even just motivational things. And so those were really good too. They were worth listening to. So to kind of close this out, now you've heard, about Amway, the fundamentals, how it works. I'll give you my takeaways, my big things that I got out of it. And really there's 3 here. First question, right? Am I glad I did it? Yes. I can confidently say, yeah, I'm glad I did it. I would do it again. Maybe it's the wrong decision. It's a little spoiler. I'm not doing it anymore. or I'm not going to at the conclusion of this year. But yeah, I'm really happy I did it. I learned a ton about sales, about getting outside my comfort zone, which was the biggest thing. I think it's always good to push yourself in that way. So really happy for that. Grew my people skills. I like to think of myself as a people person. I think I got even better in that area. And I made some money out of it, right? Which isn't a bad thing. So I'm definitely glad I did it. If you're listening to this, if you've been approached by an MLM, you're asking a question, should I do it? Maybe, right? That's a question I can't confidently answer without knowing your situation. But like I said, I was fortunate enough to have the mentors I had. If you are in that position, then yeah, I would totally say that, because I think you'll learn a lot, if nothing else. Probably the one thing that didn't make me quit after my first 2 months was the people I was around. Just great people all around. Their friendliness was not like faked. I feel like a lot of times with MLMs or recruitment based stuff, you get people that are fake nicey nice to get you to sign up, and then they don't care about you. These people genuinely cared about me, about my life, wanted to be a part of it, wanted to like meet my family, learn what I did, learn my hobbies, learn what I love, what I don't love, things like that. So I think that's really cool, and something that, usually you're, I mean, you're kind of paying to sign up for Amway to get your own business anyways, but usually you pay for those types of friendships in college through a fraternity or sorority, right? And this way was a lot more genuine, a lot more mature people in that way. So, yeah, if you're asking yourself, should I do it? I'm not entirely sure, but like I said, it's a great way to learn about yourself and try new things. I always, advocate for that. Try new things, put yourself out there, especially when you're young. Make mistakes. It's like what life's about. And you learn about yourself, and you learn about what you love, what you don't love. So that way, when you're older, hopefully you're in that environment and that space where you can thrive and use all your skills for good, right? I'll touch on this again, but the biggest thing was a time investment into this. Met a lot of great people along the way. This doesn't cost much in terms of like a financial commitment to do Amway. In fact, like you make your money back on it within like the first month or two. So, from that perspective, it's pretty much a smart thing to do. But it is a huge time investment if you're going to be successful. I think that doesn't get stressed enough throughout the recruiting process, and something that you really have to check yourself on. And that kind of leads me to my third point here, why I'm leaving, why I'm kind of hanging up the cleats with my Amway business. The biggest thing, I just didn't want to do the work anymore. I couldn't sell the products I didn't believe in, and like by and large, there was a lot of good ones. But there were a few that, I didn't think were the best out there, and it's hard for you to sell products that you don't believe in. Any salesperson will understand that and echo that as well. So, I just didn't really want to do the work, didn't want to sell certain things. And I also didn't want to lead others anymore, just like, mentally of just wanting to make a difference, right, in other people's lives, how I talked about that. I didn't care about the money, like, after the first 3 months. I just wanted other people to succeed and learn about God and use this opportunity. Believed that, he would allow me to, like, reap a harvest if I invested time in other people, and helped them, help them make money. I'll make money as a, side effect, right? Just let me help people as much as I can. And I just like mentally was kind of checked out at this time. Just wasn't going to be in that serving attitude anymore, which is the wrong place to be in this. So I just kind of knew that it was kind of time for me to step aside. Second biggest reason why I'm not doing this anymore is I just want to pursue other avenues. This came at a good time for me. I think it was awesome. Really happy I did it. But like I said, you have to have time to be committed to this. And I just wanted to pursue other things, other ideas, other business goals that I have, other hobbies while I'm still have, some good amount of free time to myself. and take this experience and apply it to those areas. And if you're not going to be all in on something, especially that's not your job, right? People say you have to love your job. A lot of people don't love their job, and they're just kind of in it. They're working. It's paying the bills. For a hobby or something you're doing outside of that, right? Not outside your means to survive, you got to love it. You got to love what you're doing, or it's it's a waste of time. You're never going to get anything out of it. You have to be 100% in. And I wasn't like that with this anymore. And you have to be 100% into this to really find success and to grow. And it's like that anywhere else. And I just wanted to take that passion, that energy, that time, and invest it somewhere else. So that's probably the biggest reason. And then the third reason, I just wasn't having the same joy in it, right? That kind of ties into what I just said. But yeah, I just wasn't having that, spirit, that servitude mindset, the wanting to do this, waking up, wanting to go make sales, help people, go find random people, go talk to them, do that stuff like that. I just didn't feel it anymore. Just kind of was tapped out with it, and yeah, just was ready for something else. And then kind of like the last point here, this is just kind of a side note, but I feel like in a couple of my peers who joined in the beginning and kind of quit towards a couple months in, kind of had the same way. Once you start asking some of the bigger questions, they don't really get answered. At least I feel like I didn't get answers to certain questions on things like the conferences, for example. You have thousands of people spending the money for the ticket to the conference, and I know lighting and audio and video, because it was broadcasted, like all that stuff costs money. The hotel space and everything, that costs money to reserve out. But, you look around, you see the thousands of people there and the hundreds of dollars that are spent, for the ticket, I feel like there's margins there, profit to be made off that. And it just feels like no one ever gave me an answer of where that money went. They always said it went to making the conference, and then, the excess money came out of the leaders' pockets. If that's true, then thank you for that answer. It just was a little bit hard for me to believe. And then the other thing was, at least through our LTD system, like I said about the audios and reading thing, they call this optional. It really isn't optional as much. They said it's $35 a year, which, okay, sure, that's fine. $35 a year, you get access to the LTD site, but you don't get access to you get access to audios, but you don't get new credits, which is fine. But there's a certain app that you have to use to send to people and use it to send them audios and things like that. And if you're not spending this money, you don't have access to those apps anymore. And it's not $35 a year. It was $35 for a trial thing, which is 3 months or so, and then it goes to $60, and then after those 3 months it goes to $90 a month after that. And when I was doing this, at the start I was living by myself, so everything was tight, rent, expenses, groceries, everything. I barely had any money to put towards savings, let alone do something fun. And so putting an extra $100 a month towards something that I didn't use that often just never seemed worth it. Now my coaches worked with me around that, but it felt like it was a hindrance to the process, and just little things like that, just where it just didn't feel like it was communicated the right way at the start, about what the actual cost of that would be, and so yeah, it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way at the beginning, and then kind of made adjustments, and then still kind of had hiccups there. But anyways, those are just some minor things, but yeah, it just seems like there is a little iffiness going on there, and I'm sure the higher you go up through the organization, depending on the levels of income that you're at in it, I think you make money off of audios, off of speaking at conferences and things like that. Who knows if that's actually true? I just never really got a straight answer on it. So like I said, when you ask some questions, you never really got an answer on things, which, for me at the time, I just kind of was whatever. Don't really care as much. and other people made them quit. So yeah, just if you're thinking about it, just talk to whoever you're working with or is recruiting you. Try and ask those questions early. And if you don't like the answers, don't do it, because I think your success in Amway or an MLM really depends on the people you're working with. For me, people were awesome, love them, still would consider them good friends. They taught me a lot, but yeah. So that kind of wraps everything up. A little bit longer of a solo episode today, but again, the point of this podcast is to talk about things that are in my head. And, this was a big one over the past year plus of my life. A lot of time invested in this. Met a bunch of people, grew a lot. Overall, I was pretty happy that I did this. Like I said, made some money out of the result of it, but just want to go some different directions now. So, I hope this helped clear the air on some people's thoughts on Amway, on MLMs, and hope if anything else you get out of this, that if you want to do something, be all in on it, or else you're not going to find success. That's probably one of the biggest things I got out of this. And just be kind to other people. It's just little things, it can go a long way if you're just kind. So that'll conclude this week's episode. I hope you guys all enjoyed, and we'll see you next week.